And we're back.
This is Past the Rock.
All right, time for the second quarter. I'm definitely gonna let C's handle this,
Feel like
bringing us this first little bit here, where we're gonna reference uh, what hopefully becomes a bigger story at some point.
dude, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and so rightfully so. There's a lot of stories in all aspects of life, but in the sports world, especially this part of the year, right? The NBA Finals done. The baseball is in the middle of its season, and we all know how long of a drag that can be from time to time. Um, Hockey done, right? So you have one real major American sport it's carrying everything right now, and it can be a little difficult for it to maintain the attention of people constantly. Sure, there is the football, like soccer football, club World Cup games going on right now, but I don't know how much that interests the average American. So what does grab the average American's attention when it comes to sports in the summertime? Big news. Anything that's scandalous, anything that is just absolutely like absolutely attention grabbing without a shadow of a doubt. Except for this story, apparently. All right, the NFL, the biggest league in the U.S., just had a story come out. Not them themselves, right? But we have definitive proof that owners are colluding against players' contracts. All right. So, for those of you who may not know what I'm talking about, Pablo Torre finds out a favorite of our host Bethke here, our co-host Bethke here, came out with a story. All right, Pablo Torre and what's his name,
Mike
Michael? No,
Florio,
Michael, yeah, Florio,
Mike Florio,
Mike
the
Florio,
PFT guy.
yeah, from Pro Football Talk, came out with this huge story, and it's a gigantic story in terms of the impact that it can have for the players and the league going forward if other
If
media
any,
outlets would
if
just
anybody
fucking
decides
cover
to
it.
care,
Yeah, they just cover it. So
ugh,
here's what this is all in reference to. So there's a lot of moving parts in this story. Right? There's a lot of key figures, names that you know, names that you don't know. All right. Now, Patrick and I both did our homework in listening to this episode.
we watched one podcast.
Yeah. Hey, but the podcast did the homework for us, really. And so we might be regurgitating some points from what was said, but I think it's just good to be able to talk about, you know,
Yeah,
what
and
they
they'll
found
they'll
out.
break down the legal side of it a little bit better than we're going to.
Yeah,
But yeah, if you want more details, you
definitely check them
definitely
out.
go to Pablo Torre Finds Out and watch it. But we still want to discuss the
What
the
the
story
results of
around
this.
it, not necessarily each individual specific detail.
Yeah. Now, we're going to try to summarize some of what happened. So, here is the foundation of this entire story, and it is the Deshaun Watson contract. All right. Deshaun Watson got a fully guaranteed deal. It has never been done in the history of the NFL of this magnitude. We've had Kirk Cousins who got a fully guaranteed deal
I think it was a
before.
partial guarantee though, wasn't it?
No. Deshaun Watson's was 100%
No,
guaranteed.
no, the Kirk Cousins.
Maybe the second one, but I believe he got
Okay.
the first guaranteed deal for a quarterback, fully guaranteed deal
I
for
thought
a
it was
quarterback.
just the highest one. No, you're probably right. Go ahead.
Yeah, so he got one of the first ones. However, it wasn't super long in length,
Right.
and the amount I believe was $84 million
Something
across
like
three
that. Yeah.
years.
It was
You
definitely
know,
under 100.
yeah. So it was a reasonable contract for a player of his caliber at that time. Fast forward just a few years later, like I don't think it was that long after.
Well, I
It's
think he
the
actually took less than the market to get the guarantee. Is
yes,
how that works, right? Yeah.
I believe so. That could be it. My memory of that time is quickly fading away, but that's besides the point. Uh, we get the fully guaranteed deal, and I believe it's 5 years, $230 million. His annual salary came out to $46 million per year. It set a new standard, or what should have been a new standard of quarterback contracts. Now, fully guaranteed deals, especially of that magnitude, unheard of in the NFL. You see it in baseball, you see it in basketball, right? Those leagues have strong player unions in comparison to the NFL, right? Now, we're going to put on hold the other leagues, right? We're focusing on this. We're going to move to certain names that you need to be aware of in this story. You're going to hear the names of DeMaurice Smith for NFL fans who really like to follow player movements. He is the executive, the main executive of the NFL Players Union at the time. I don't think he is right now, but he was for quite some time. He was hired back in.
Part of the whole thing is him not being there anymore.
Yeah,
and his replacement.
And yeah, his replacement, who really just bundled this up. But anyway, I believe he got hired back in 2009, 2 years before the 2011 lockout, right? And he was with the NFLPA up until about 2020, if I'm not mistaken. So there was a lot of back and forth during those times. They didn't get the NFL Players Union was trying to fight for guaranteed contracts even way back then. They didn't get it. And here's the thing. They will mention this in the Pablo Torre story. Pablo Torre finds out that the NFL owners are willing to hit the nuclear button because they know the players aren't willing to do it. And what does that mean? Lockout, right? The owners are willing to lock the players out because they know that the structures of those contracts really put the players in a bind, right? The players only get paid during the season, and then there's like this dead period where they're not making any money, and then they get paid for showing up to mini camp, showing up to, training camp and off-season mandatory workouts.
And it's compounded by they have shorter careers than any other pro athletes.
That is very true. All right. The average NFL career lasts about 3.5 to 4 seasons on average. Right? Either because there's 53-man rosters, and then you have now, I believe it's 12 or more. I believe maybe it's like 15 players on the practice squad. A lot of those guys, they get cycled in and out of the league. Okay. So the reason that players aren't willing to hit the nuclear option is because a vast majority of them are on short-term deals, right? And they want to get paid while they can because they know that NFL life is not very long, right? There's a reason the only players that you see really having extensive careers are kickers, punters, long snappers, and certain QBs. Right? Outside of that, you don't see it a lot in skill position players anymore.
Outside of that, you can't lose a step in your speed, and you're going to get hit a bunch. So
yes, right. You can't lose too much. Otherwise, you will get replaced, right? That's why there's like anomalies like Jason Peters, for example. He's had a 20-plus year career as an offensive lineman. He's also a kind of freak of nature. And those last years haven't been very good either, but just good enough to be on a roster. But like that's besides the point. All right. There's a reason players don't want to do it. They're not prepped or prepared for long lockouts, at least the vast majority. Guys like Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, just big name quarterbacks, they can do it because they have huge salaries. They're not worried about it. But so they may encourage their teammates to do it. But their teammates are like, we don't have that salary. Our union is not very well organized, and there's not like a lot for those lower tier players to do other than to accept the demands of the owners. And like the higher players are like, no. We can get more. You got to trust the system. The system is fucked for these guys. Now, why is that? Well, let's bring up a name. I believe, what was his, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's J.C. Tedder was the...
Yeah.
All right. Is it J.C. or J.T.?
I think it was definitely J.C.
Right. So, J.C. Tedder.
Treader.
He was... Treader. Yes, he was, if I'm not mistaken, he was a center for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So, he was a center for the Cleveland Browns right around the time that Deshaun Watson gets signed. And y'all might be thinking, well, what does he have to do with any of this? Well, he was elected the NFLPA Players President. All right. So you have two main representatives, right? You're going to have one coming from the player side, and then there's going to be an outside figure who could have been a former player, could have been just a very successful attorney, a corporate
Well,
representative.
I think the executive has it not always been a player, also a former player
Demore Smith
before
was not a
this?
player.
Was it? Oh, you're
No,
right. You're right. You absolutely
Demore
right.
Smith was not a player. He was an attorney of some sort, but
Probably some kind of labor attorney or
yeah,
someone who's worked in unions before, ideally.
yeah, ideally, right? So JC Treader.
Hmm.
Treader. He gets elected NFLPA president, I believe, around the time Deshaun Watson signs his contract. Now his term is only 2 years. It's just 2 years. So fast forward 2 years, he gets reelected. Now the problem with the NFLPA's president is that it has to be an active player on a team. It comes to like he gets cut from the Browns and thus loses his position as NFLPA president.
And he gets cut from the Browns, maybe because of the Deshaun contract. You could argue they were trying to find some spots to save some money.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I wouldn't go as far as saying, NFL owners are in the ears of the Cleveland Browns ownership group and saying you should cut this guy. You should cut this guy so he can not be the president anymore. But who's to say?
Well,
it
I don't
could have
think
just been a cap casualty because of that.
I think the way that this all plays out, they would have been not doing that because he's helping them. So
he's helped them to some extent. But now listen, where was I? Okay, yeah. So JC Treader, this guy, very important to know. He gets released from the Browns, does not get signed anywhere else. But before he gets unceremoniously ousted out of his position, he led the search for Demore Smith's replacement. So the replacement ends up being a guy by the name, I believe, Lloyd Howell Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Lloyd Howell Jr. has absolutely zero experience with unions or professional sports. He works for a completely different corporate entity that solely dealt with government contracts. Now, these government contracts, turns out, were not very beneficial for the company or the government itself. So,
I was going to say they're kind of beneficial for the company until he got caught.
Until he got caught. Essentially, it's a big money laundering scheme. And he is the CFO, I believe, of the company that, gets caught not doing what they're supposed to be doing with this money. So he kind of leaves in disgrace. So this disgraced former exec basically gets put into the position of the NFLPA executive director.
Yeah, this was interesting because when Treader first is elected union president, he talks about there's been a lack of communication. Not everybody knows the facts. I'm going to make sure we communicate and everyone knows everything. And then the whole process in this hiring is questionable because it's kind of done behind closed doors. But then they're
100%.
like, oh, actually, it was completely open. Anyone could have come in, but no one knew it was happening.
Yeah, which, a lot of sketchiness there. And so, yeah. Then, this guy becomes the new executive director and then creates a brand new position that did not exist in the NFLPA, that being Chief Strategy Officer. And guess who fills in the Chief Strategy Officer position?
Well, I don't know. Was it someone qualified? Maybe a current player? Someone on a team?
No, it was
someone who heads up labor unions, who has some kind of education.
Well, they do have education.
Treader does have a decent education.
Yeah, I believe he went to Cornell, so very, very qualified in the education department, but maybe not qualified in any other context. JC Treader becomes the new Chief Strategy Officer for the NFLPA. They create a whole new position for this guy who is no longer the player representative in the NFLPA. Wow, what a coincidence, right? So what does this have to do with collusion? Well, you're going to see why the NFLPA is in a very bumbling, stumbling, just mess here because you look at the way the leadership has now been just kind of fumbled around. And now you land on a disgraced former corporate executive caught red-handed in a money laundering scandal. You now get this guy who creates a new position for the guy who put him in that place to begin with. So that's already a couple red flags right there. Now let's talk about what they found out in regards to collusion. All right, so Mike Florio and Pablo Torre go on to say that, during some arbitration talks, right, during the Lamar Jackson contract saga.
Yeah, so the NFLPA files a grievance, asks for an arbiter to decide if the NFL owners are colluding against Lamar Jackson specifically. And then I don't know if the other quarterbacks were mentioned in this as part of the actual suit or
one of their situations was used against the NFLPA. So and we'll get to that. But yeah, no, as you were saying though, they're trying to find out if there's any collusion specifically regarding Lamar Jackson. Now, we mentioned Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's contract gets brought up by, I believe, another owner of the Arizona Cardinals. And I forget his name. Bidwell? Something Bidwell. Now, people correct me if I'm wrong, or in the comments, or, Patrick, if you remember.
It's one of the Falcons owner?
So the Falcons owner is mentioned in this.
The Cardinals owner is in a separate conversation with
the
Chargers owner.
Yes, but there's also another conversation that gets brought up talking about the contract, right? They're like, I can't believe they gave them a guaranteed deal.
Yeah, that was the Falcons owner.
Yeah, they can't believe that they got a guaranteed deal. Now, the next contract up, the next quarterback that came into this next contract up situation was going to be Kyler Murray, right? Lamar Jackson's deal still hasn't come into effect at this point. It's Kyler Murray. Now, Bidwell and Spanos, Dean Spanos, the owner of the Los Angeles Chargers, their text conversation gets used in this arbitration hearing where Dean Spanos congratulates Mike Bidwell on the contract and not having a fully guaranteed deal. He goes on to say in this text thread that, hey, your deal makes it easier for when it's our guy's turn to get paid. What if this is a true league of competition, right? Why are you, as one owner, going to the other owner and like, hey man, good job on undercutting that your player there. That's going to set a standard for us to follow. Because here is the thing, and this is how you can get collusion across the league. There is, if you as owners stand your ground, right, and say, hey, this contract right here is an aberration. It is not the new standard that we are going to go by. This is just the exception to the rule, right? So you make the Cleveland Browns look one way, and all of you are like, no, that's not how we're doing this, right? Now, how do you have this happen? How do you have 30 owners, because the Packers don't have a real owner, how do you have the 30 other owners be in lockstep? Well, the NFL, I believe they said it's the NFL MC.
Yeah, Management Council.
Management Council. And for people who don't know what this is, it's
the Collusion Council.
It is literally the Collusion Council. And you might be saying, how is it a Collusion Council? Well, one of the NFL owners is the president of this Management Council. So you have one owner giving advice,
recommendations to all other teams. Now, it is not deliberate in like, hey, don't do this. They'll be like, well, we would advise against you all doing this, but that is just our advice. You don't have to take it. We've all had that talk at work where someone's like, I'm not telling you this, but,
right? And during this arbitration, all of these communications have been documented and they have to be presented to the arbitrator. And it's looking like, hey, the NFL owners are caught with, red-handed in the situation. It doesn't help that
not just to the arbitrator.
Yeah, to the NFLPA.
Yeah, the NFLPA is seeing all of this as well, and that's why this is even more wild story than it would have been. It would have been a great story for the NFLPA to break.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. Okay, I don't want to jinx this. There is a no hitter watch right now, but we're not gonna say who or what. Anyway, um, so we have this going on, right? And you're like, all right, this is everything the NFLPA needed to do, right? This is what they've been waiting for. They've been waiting for some sort of leverage because they've been out leveraged from the start, right? Historically, from the start, they've been out leveraged by the owners. What happens? There is another quarterback whose contract this comes up, and JC Treader, right? He essentially fucks over the NFLPA because all communications regarding a bunch of player contracts are presented to the arbitrator. And what he does is absolutely tears into Russell Wilson, who gets a contract from, I believe, the Seahawks at the time. It's not guaranteed. It's not fully guaranteed, and I don't think they were pushing for fully guaranteed.
You didn't jinx it; it was already over.
Oh, okay. Then ESPN was really late on the notification.
Yeah, we'll touch on that later.
Yeah, and he is caught absolutely just making fun and using some very colorful language to disparage Russell Wilson. The NFL owners see this in the arbitration meetings, and they use this to say, how could we possibly be in collusion? Because they're showing this. This is when these guys are talking to about the players like this, right? And the arbitrator uses that to essentially rule against the NFLPA. Now, I could be just absolutely butchering this summarization, and I do apologize for that. But hey, Pablo Torre and Mike Florio are really, really good at discussing this. But it is so fascinating to see how the NFLPA blundered this grievance.
And yeah, did you already touch on why they didn't ever tell anybody about any of this?
Oh no, but go ahead, take it away on that one.
So part of the discovery on their end was some conversations that the owners used to prove that, or to basically be like, this is why it's not collusion. It was JC Treader talking crap to Russell Wilson about trying to get a guaranteed contract, I believe.
Okay, yeah, no, I did
calling
bring that
him
up.
a bunch of names.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I wasn't sure if you did that while I was checking on that no-hitter.
Oh, okay. No, I
That's
definitely
kind of
did
the
that.
crux of why this is so wild. And not just that we have proof technically that the NFL is, which, whatever. We all knew the NFL owners were working together in a lot of different ways. I don't know.
But
that's not the shocking part. The shocking part is that the NFLPA has pieces of paper where they can bring that, where an agent could say, hey, here's how you fucked this player before. Now let's talk about what you're going to pay him. They had they had leverage, and they just let it go because they're afraid of looking bad, and their leadership sucks, which is what we established at the beginning.
Absolutely. Now, I believe it was John Mara. So John Mara, and this is just going back towards the NFL MC Management Council. He is the president of the Management Council, and his defense was that, could you imagine me telling another owner how to run their business, right? Imagine me telling and he said Jerry Jones. He used Jerry Jones not to guarantee Dak's deal. I'm like, bro, Jerry Jones would absolutely listen to that. He doesn't want to guarantee anybody's deal.
Yeah, he was already never going to do that, so you picked the wrong guy.
You absolutely picked the wrong guy. He's trying to say, like, look, he's an opposing rival owner. I'm like, no, he's definitely going to be in lockstep with you guys. That's a terrible example to use. But that's exactly what you're doing with the management council. You're telling these guys how to run their organization.
No doubt.
All right? Okay, you're advising. It's still one owner talking to a bunch of other owners on how to ideally run their organizations, which is really rich coming from the Giants because that's not a well-run organization top to bottom. They lucked their way into 2 Super Bowls in the modern era. Otherwise, it is a lot of mediocrity that with like a small run in the 80s.
I was gonna say,
That
like, yeah, isn't it like three? Didn't they win at least one
Yeah, they won. They won one
before
with
the
Bill
Eli's
Parcells. Yeah.
when Bill was there?
Oh yeah. I think they won two. They have four Super Bowls.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Still,
Still,
currently not a great franchise.
absolutely not. But the NFLPA had so much going for them, but because of this blunder, right, the way that they communicated to Russ and not wanting to look bad has absolutely just set back the players even more so now, especially considering that I don't think there's going to be labor talks again until 2030, if I'm not
Right, I
mistaken.
think that's the new CBA time.
Yeah, so 2030. So there's still 5 years before there's any more talks, right? And before even then, the NFL owners, like I said, they have the players by the balls. Now, if the NFLPA leadership can just exercise some humility, which I know is very difficult for them, they can still turn things around. Granted, they use this paper again, these communications against the owners. They say, hey, look, players, this is what happened. We fucked up, but the owners are colluding against you. You have time to build an argument, to build a case. Will they? I don't know. I highly doubt it. This is a weak union by every measure. And unless the players start gearing up now for a potential player-led lockout, I don't think it's gonna happen. Now, here is the thing, though, and this is what could be the game changer. And I don't think they definitely didn't bring this up. But what we're not talking about right now is how a lot of players coming from college are now coming in with a little bit of pocket change. Not all of them, but a good number of them
More than
are
ever
getting
before.
more than ever
Higher
before.
amounts probably for most of them.
Yeah, coming in with these NIL deals. If you can somehow, as the NFLPA, as players, right, just representing yourselves and not a team, can advise these kids, hey, if you have aspirations of being a pro and you're going to come into this league around this time, hold on to that NIL money. Yeah. Hold on to it for as long as you can, because we are going to try to get a lock. We're going to have a lockout, and we're going to try to get fair compensation. And by fair compensation, yes, I know these NFL players are making millions and millions of dollars on the high end for top talent, but these mid-tier, lower-tier NFL players, they're not making as much, right?
And especially not when compared to the revenue brought in off their backs. That's kind of the main point.
Exactly. This is the highest grossing league in North America, and I don't even think it's particularly close. Not with TV deals, not with merchandise revenue. And if you just look at the gate, right? NFL stadiums typically bigger than MLB stadiums. Definitely 2-3 times the size of NBA arenas. Right, and then the scarcity of the games, you can charge higher ticket prices than you could for, basketball, baseball, whatnot. So, and I know nobody from the NFLPA is probably going to watch this, but if they do, I'm like, listen, it is time to
fire Lloyd Howell Jr.
Yes, and probably J.C. Treader as well.
I wonder if he's still in there or not.
I don't think they ever mentioned him not being there, so maybe. But listen, you guys are going to need a whole new set of leaders. You're going to need them to be absolutely proven to be capable, coming from other unions. If I were them, I'm like, listen, go get somebody from the baseball union, right? That's the strongest union in probably all of North America, if we're being honest.
Actually, with maybe whatever the players' union is in that women's hockey league where they don't even, or no, maybe it's a soccer league where they don't have draft. You just get to sign with whoever you want.
Ooh, well, that does sound pretty strong.
It's an interesting experiment that hopefully other sports could pick up.
I just don't know if like it would work in bigger leagues.
It definitely could.
It wouldn't create parity though. I don't think.
I think
I think
that it
certain
would.
team, and maybe over time, but I think initially you're gonna want like all the best players are gonna want to be on the best teams. And like, why would I want to play for? Like, how many people realistically want to play for the Cleveland Browns?
Someone who just wants to play, or
Well, see, but someone who just wants to play probably isn't at the level
well, I mean,
of
if
like somebody who would go in the first round.
not everybody is a first rounder though, and most teams aren't. I don't know. That's a conversation for a whole nother time. We are.
Yeah, I just don't think it would work as well in the NFL. But who knows? That's a good thought experiment though. But yeah, listen, there the NIL is probably the greatest blessing in disguise for the NFLPA outside of this, right? All the information that came from this grievance and that's now, open for everybody to see.
Well, sort of. Pablo's
Sort of.
still really the only one who's actually seen it, right? I don't know if he's like officially just posted it anywhere.
I'm sure Pro Football Talk has probably posted some stuff because it was a joint venture between the two.
Yeah.
Listen, once the players get get their hands on all that information and see it for themselves, absolutely, I think it will benefit them. Now, will they take advantage of it? Who knows? Historically speaking, they probably won't. But time remains time will tell. Right now, there was something else that I wanted to kind of go over regarding this story. Did I write it down, or am I just gonna have to deal with the fact that I lost the plot on this one, or lost the idea of what I was trying to go through? Yeah, I don't know. Patrick, did you have anything that you wanted to say, or anything else that you wanted to add to this?
No, I think we covered it pretty thoroughly.
Yeah, I think so as well. It's bothering me that I just lost the thought that I had going on with this. But yeah, it's just a lot of stuff that. Oh, now I know what I want to say. Listen, now we mentioned earlier, this is not being talked about, and I don't think they will be talked about. I don't think the league wants this to be spoken about on the major platforms, right? ESPN has a huge TV deal with the NFL. So does Amazon. So does CBS, all right, Fox, NBC. These major media outlets will not be covering this. And sure, there are people that you can trust at these outlets, if they were independent, to go over this information with the public, right? Like, you're telling me that Mina Kimes wouldn't talk about this? I 100% believe she would talk about this, but she works for ESPN. So they're probably not going to let her. And if they do let her, it's going to be in a very limited capacity. And as far as the rest, I guess no one in FS1 really. NBC Sports, I mean, maybe they'll talk about it on the website, but they don't necessarily have like a channel, right? They don't have like a dedicated sports channel that talks about the NFL that I'm aware of, right? Maybe they do, but maybe it's only on cable. It's not on public television or free broadcast rather. And then CBS, same with them. They have the NFL on Showtime. That's their whole deal right there. I don't think they're going to talk about that either, and they should. But they probably won't, and so it is up to podcasts like Pablo Torre Finds Out and other outlets on the internet, such as ourselves.
I wonder if McAfee will.
He would be the one. Ironically, would probably be the one to talk about it, but he probably wouldn't talk about it the way that we would probably want him to talk about it. If that makes sense.
I think he might feel himself enough to do it.
I mean, yeah, because he's a little rough around the edges in terms of presenting these things, right? He may bring it up, but then him and his cohort are really gonna, I think, just present it in a way where they might lose. They may not cover the things that may feel necessarily pertinent, right? They might just go skim over certain things. But hey, if anybody over there at ESPN can get away with it, it's going to be him. He makes a shit ton of money. and he really doesn't adhere to a lot of what the ESPN execs even want from him most
And
of the time.
ironically, probably guaranteed contract.
Right? So we'll see what happens. But this story just broke not too long ago, just like 3 days ago, I feel. So hey, uh, if you guys enjoyed us talking about this, please go listen to the full thing. It's about an hour long, but man, you are going to learn so much, and your mind's going to be blown with how incompetent both sides are, and yet one benefits more than the other.
True.
Just like real life. But yeah, that's all I got on that. Now, it says here you have an NFL Pride song. I've already heard a preview of this.
We have to honor Pride, so I think that's how we'll just play this out and let it end the quarter here or the half.
Let's just listen to this monstrosity that you've created.
It's about a minute long. Not gonna kill you with it. Here we go.
Oh my god, it's so funny. Football is for everyone. Everyone. Football is gay. Football is lesbian. Football is beautiful. Football is beautiful. Football is for everyone. Football is for everyone. Football is queer. Football is transgender. Football is for everyone. Football is beautiful. Football is beautiful. Football is beautiful. Football is beautiful. Football is gay. Football is gay. Football is gay. Football is gay. Football is for everyone. Everyone.